Hello YouTube, this is Boston Best 0407, and this is going to be a follow-up to my last video. And in this video I'm going to try to tackle a serious topic, and this is just going to be about some of the things that I've learned about men and women. And I remember at one point in my life I had very conventional ideas about men and women. I believed the history, and I understood, just things you always hear, like men are, detached or whatever, women are more emotional, whatever the case may be. And what I've learned since I started studying these gender issues is that a large amount of this is perception, and that perception really colors our perspectives in a way that isn't always true. And I believe that by and large what we think about men and women are really not the case at all, and that, like I said, they're just colored by our perceptions, which are a product of our evolutionary adaptations and things of that nature. And in fact, the actual behavior of men and women tells us a lot about the real nature of men and women. Our typical perceptions are that men are aggressive and women are passive. That's probably as basic as you can get it. And however, it's been noted that women, when they engage in bad or negative behavior, they can engage in very passive aggressive behavior. However, one thing that's not really looked at is the fact that men can engage in what I'm going to call aggressively passive behavior. That is, 9 times out of 10 when men are initiating aggression or violence, they're doing it because they're being coerced into doing it. They're not doing it as agents necessarily. They're doing it because somebody who is an agent is telling them to do it. And for example, in military situations, when men are going out and committing violence or overseas, they're doing it because somebody else told them to do it. Indeed, they're doing it many times at gunpoint, in which they don't have a choice in the matter. They fundamentally don't have a choice in the matter. And so they're initiating violence and engaging in violence irrespective of whether or not they even want to do that. And indeed, when men are protecting their women, they are indeed sometimes engaging in violence against other men because something that the woman told them. For example, if one man comes up to a woman and gropes her or insults her, and she goes off and tells her boyfriend's going to go out with a baseball bat or something and go beat up the guy who did this. And this is another example of aggressively passive behavior, because there's never a consideration ever about what the actual circumstance of that is, nor does anyone see the woman who told her boyfriend this as an agent. Nobody will hold her responsible for it. Matter of fact, they will assume. Matter of fact, the guy who gets beat up will probably be blamed for it. It's like, hey, well, you shouldn't have assaulted his girlfriend, and he would have no reason to beat you up. It's like there's never a consideration that maybe she should not have said that. No responsibility on her part. This is because where men are seen as agents, doers, women are seen as objects, and they just exist. They're not seen as being able to do anything or to initiate any sort of force. And this is something. This is just something that we just assume. We assume it naturally. It's not out of sexism or patriarchy or something like that. It's just something we assume. We do it so much we don't even realize we're doing it half the time. It's beyond us to even realize we're doing it a lot of the time. And however, I would say that a lot of this stuff is negative because, well, it's obviously negative. It's negative whenever there's a situation in which someone's doing violence against another person, in many cases arbitrarily, maybe not even justified. For example, it can be said that the woman who felt that way was maybe being a little bit too sensitive. There's never a consideration there. Nobody really looks at that necessarily. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But there's never that consideration, and there's never a mechanism which says, hey, lady, maybe you've been being too sensitive. For example, what was it that the guy was saying that was insulting? Who knows? Maybe the girls did something that made made him believe that he could grope her. Who knows? That's never discussed. It's just, and sometimes I think women do this kind of thing for vindictive reasons. I will tell you a brief story about something I experienced when I was in middle school. Now, when I was in middle school, I was a little bit of a psychopath. I had my own set of problems and issues, and I was not a particularly socially adept person, and so you gotta bear in mind that I was not in the right state of mind. So when I was about 13, I think I was in 7th grade, and I was swinging on the swing set down at the playground where I lived. And there was 3 people at the playground. There was 2 guys and a girl, and the girl came up to me while I was on the swing set and asked me if I could use a swing set. Now there's probably about six separate swing sets there, so she could have used any one of them. But she decided to ask me, and I was admittedly very irritated that she chose to ask me because I had a bad day. I just wanted to come down there and relax, and I told her, because like I said, I wasn't in the right state of mind, so I wasn't very mannerable about it. I said "fuck you," maybe I might even said "fuck off." I don't remember what I said exactly, but I swore at her, and I did the rather unchivalrous thing, and she walked away, and the 2 guys, one of which was her boyfriend, walked home. And as I was sitting there, I thought, thank God, they're gone. And they came back. And by that time, I was walking home, not really because I was scared of them or whatever, or because I realized what was going on, but because I wanted to get home. Now they end up backing me into a corner. They end up punching me in the face. And that's what happened there. And it was a negative situation because I really hadn't meant to. I just, for example, I was really kind of impulsive about it. I didn't mean to insult her. It wasn't really like that. But they I guess, decided to pick on this because they were older. They were in their teens. They decided to pick on this 13-year-old kid, small kid, probably a little bit socially awkward, whatever. But that's what happened with that. And the moral of this story is that the girl decided, out of vindictiveness, out of pure vindictiveness, and she doesn't have to take responsibility for the fact that I got punched in the face. I think if my mother ended up finding out about this and called the police, and I think it would have been the guy who would have gotten arrested. There wouldn't have been, for example, a conspiracy on the part of the 2, because we don't think like that. If 2 men engage in this, if for example this was a criminal situation, it would be technically considered conspiracy. But because of this, it just doesn't come to us to think that. And it's sort of always been the task historically for men to take responsibility for the protection of their women folk. And what does this do? What is the problem with this? As far as I see it, there's a very obvious problem in which violence is being done against people. But, for example, what am I saying? The point I'm trying to make is that this is very problematic because many times we hold men accountable, and we never really give men the benefit of the doubt. And in the case of women, we don't hold them responsible, thus we assume that they are weaker than they actually are. We assume they don't have any sort of agency. We assume that they are objects. We assume that they are children who can't fend for themselves. This is what we assume. It's almost what we imply when we assume that women, when we don't hold women accountable. And when we excessively hold men accountable, we do an injustice to them because we don't take into consideration their individual circumstances. In other words, we don't feel much compassion for them. We say, oh, if that was a problem, for example, myself, my situation, most people would say, well, you insulted his girlfriend. You kind of deserved it. And myself, I would internalize that. For many years, I kind of internalized it to some extent. And that's the sort of thing that happens. But that's blaming yourself for a problem that it's just because you behaved out of line doesn't mean that your personal protection, your personal safety should be considered. And to a large degree, most of this was the result of their desire to pick on me because I was younger than them. That was the crux of it. But within that, there was this idea, oh, well, I gotta protect my girlfriend, kind of nonsense. And who knows if they even stayed together? She might have dumped him, So it's this kind of thinking that I think is problematic. And relationships, by the way, don't always last. So what are you doing in the context of that? So this is kind of a sloppy kind of rant. But I'm not making full sense of it. It's pretty off the cuff. But the point the larger point I'm trying to make is that the perceptions of men and women are not what we think. Women have far more power, because the power to sick a man after another man in a situation like that. That is power, and it's a power that in our society, in any society, but really in our society, there's no mechanism to make sure women use that power responsibly. It's my personal belief that women have a great deal of psychological, emotional, and sexual power over men, and the problem with a lot of this is that there is no mechanism really to encourage that, because our assumption is that women can't really, we assume that they are weak, we do this without even really thinking about it. This is where a lot of the politics of things like rape culture and a lot of this kind of stuff comes in. There's always the assumption that women are the victims. There's never an assumption that men can be victims. And we also undervalue and kind of, we undervalue female agency. Women being agents themselves, passive agents, but agents nonetheless, and we just don't give the same benefit to men. So we in a situation like that, I think in many ways, we force something upon men in which some men, not all men, but some men may internalize that, and this is what I think leads to men committing suicide when they end up blaming themselves for all of their problems, and that's what happens. Now, excuse me. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about. So this is just some of the things I've learned about men and women. I might come back with another video about this. Like I said, it was a little bit disorganized, a little bit combobulated, and for anyone watching this, you got to forgive me on that. I also wanted to update people about something I mentioned in my last video. For those who are into extreme music, I've put up a new page for the record label I want to start following, from Heaven Productions. And I put both my demos for my two projects, one called, and this is a very regrettable name, so don't be offended, Molestation, and my other one called Nefarium, with an E instead of an A. These two projects, one is what I would call quote unquote black and death thrash. The other one's more of a raw black metal style. And if you're into that kind of thing, go over there and check it out. And I'll leave a link in the low bar for you. And if you're into extreme music, roughly recorded, badly recorded extreme music, that's the way to go. So anyway, that's it. So talk to you later, and enjoy my disorganized rant. So that's it. Bye.